Hi everyone, thank you for joining us here today on Chicagoland Veterans Channel on Meet Advisors. I'm here today with Tom Aiello, President and Founder of March Marketing, which is a business he got going after he left the service and after he spent some time in the veteran space, kind of struck out on his own and is doing that. So Tom, thank you for joining us today.
Great to be here.
Thank you, appreciate it. So why don't we just start with just a real quick background on who you are, where you've been, what you've done, and then just tell us about March. Tell us what it is and what it does.
Yeah, going back to college, went through the Academy, West Point, came out as an Army officer, went through, served honorably, 1st Cavalry Division. Coming out, everybody faces that sort of transition, what's going to be after the military. I happened to land into advertising of all things at Leo Burnett here in Chicago, and it was a great experience for me, and it really, I thought, was a great melding of my experiences and what I had to offer. Through that process, was able to really get deep into marketing, but all the while I was touching this hand back into the military. It was very interesting. We pitched and won the Army account, so Army of One. Later moved on to Monster.com, Military.com, and again, working very closely in the military community. Later followed on to Sears Holdings, where, again, even as a VP of marketing out there, was deeply touching the military community, and that's really what led me to want to start my own company.
Okay, so I am somewhat familiar with your transition out of Sears and into March. So maybe just tell us, what process did you go through as a corporate man that all of a sudden made you want to be an entrepreneur? Did the idea for March just come to you in your sleep, and then kind of tell us a little bit about the company itself?
Yeah, I think there's a big sort of misnomer when people think about entrepreneurship. Like there's this one epiphany moment, and I would say there's epiphany months. and what happened is just through the course of me working in marketing and touching the military community and realizing that there are cultural insights that drive effective marketing to that audience, that there really was something there, and ideas started to sort of percolate in my head, and it was months and months and even a year or two as I was thinking on the concept, the idea, meanwhile doing my job, and it really sort of came to the surface. But again, at that point, it's still very, very challenging for any entrepreneur to leave the comfort of a corporate environment where you're sort of cloistered. I mean, as veterans, we're cloistered in what we wear, where we eat, what we do, and that sort of comfort, even in corporate America, it exists. And sort of step out on your own, it's very sort of disarming for a veteran to make that leap, but one that we ultimately did.
Okay. So I'm fairly familiar with what it takes to run a decent veterans program and how to be successful at that and what that should look like. And you and I have had many discussions revolving around badges and icons and advertising and all that versus substance.
Yeah.
What is it that March brings to the table? What is it you guys bring to the table as far as helping a young company or a company who hasn't moved into the veteran space before really establish a veterans program that focuses on that particular talent pipeline, reaching it, communicating with them, bringing them on board, developing them? How does March Marketing help a company realize that?
Yeah, we often think of ourselves in terms of a multicultural agency. Okay. Because people start to think about military affinity, and it's a little squishy subject, but when people think about the cultural nuances of the African American community, the Hispanic community, or the military community, these are deep-rooted cultural insights that isn't about seeing somebody in a uniform, but how you speak to them and with what cultural insights you're communicating. Our sort of client base is, of course, employment, but also brand advertisers,
right.
Universities that are trying to recruit veterans, and into all of them, we bring sort of a consistent array of offerings. First, it's helping them understand the market. Why would I even be interested in communicating in a more effective way or developing programs, products, services to this audience? And we help them understand this is 24 million Americans that have worn the uniform. And when you include their family, it's close to 100 million. That 25 million audience has a purchasing power of over $1 trillion.
Wow.
So all of a sudden, they start to understand, okay, there may be something here, and then you look at their products and services and try to find a way that makes good business sense to better serve that community.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. So you having gone through this process from West Point to the active Army to corporate America to entrepreneurship, I mean, I guess it's kind of just, it's a cop-out question on my part, but what would you throw out to veterans who are leaving the service, who want to go to work for themselves, who are tired of working for the man and want to do their own thing when they wake up?
Yeah, I would say the best single thing is get a support community in place. There's a lot of good communities around veteran entrepreneurship that are now coming to bear. One here in Chicago is called The Bunker. These are really good nonprofits, and they're not your traditional sort of veteran business incubator that'll help you. It's like
so what's the difference between the bunker and an incubator? Because
So
to be perfectly honest, that's what I thought it was.
So what I would say is when we got out of the military, we went to a TAP class or transition assistance class that they would sometimes people would jokingly say is resume writing in charm school, right? You could argue the efficacy of that, but that's sort of the imprinted version of what people would look at a veteran business center to look like. We're going to help you write a business plan. We're going to give you advantages and opportunities to do business with the government. And that's kind of it in large part. And being a veteran entrepreneur doesn't guarantee you want to do business with the government.
Right.
And what we found is that the ability of a veteran entrepreneur to get on their feet is much dictated by who they know. And so the ability to have an organization that can help you talk to people and suss through challenges on things like how do I get financing? How do I really refine our MVP that we're taking to the marketplace? Are there people that can help me on certain parts of getting my business up and running? And that community is invaluable. I found that's probably the single biggest lever a veteran entrepreneur needs to connect with to get started.
Okay. Well, as you know, I recruit veterans for a living. That's what I do. So I do that not because I feel sorry for them, but because I feel like they're a very special talent pool. The businesses that tap into that successfully tend to reap a great deal of ROI. And I find myself sounding like a broken record in a lot of things. Write a resume, build a network, blah blah blah. So I've done my best to try and come at those different engagements from a different angle, and I've been successful and unsuccessful at points. But I would love it if you would take that whole support network piece of advice you gave me, or gave us. How do you do that? What's the step action drill? I just walked off of Fort Hood, Texas. I want to be an entrepreneur. I know I need to build a support network. How do I do that?
Yeah, again, the easiest single way is to find an organization that's committed to that. The Bunker here in Chicago has created these satellite locations. I think there are 9 or 10 locations around the United States. So in Texas, Austin would be the nearest one, or LA, DC. The SBA, I think, offers some fantastic programs. However, they're not necessarily kind of building that network for you as a veteran.
SBA?
Small Business Administration. They serve a role, and I would definitely point veterans to the Small Business Administration, but don't expect you're going to get that sort of sense of support and community. What's interesting is when you're in the veteran business incubator space, you'll look at the other businesses that are nearby. Here in Chicago, they're co-located at a larger business incubator. And the nature of that is that, hey, 9 companies are going to be here and 1 is going to succeed. And they expect that.
Okay.
And they look at the veterans that are entrepreneurs and they don't understand why we can be competitive, but we'll stop and help each other. and they don't comprehend how we are there to make sure everyone succeeds. And it doesn't compete with them. And the reason is, quite honestly, they don't understand veterans.
So the mentality of the kind of leave no man behind.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I'm guilty of probably helping direct competition to the company I work for in the veteran talent acquisition space and not feeling bad about it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, in closing then, I would love it if you would just kind of, what is your message to businesses that want to reach that military population, whether it be because of their purchasing power, as a talent pipeline, for whatever reason they want to reach out to that community? What advice would you give them?
I would simply say, start smart. Think about the market. Think about what it means to you as an organization, whether you're a nonprofit, the amount of people you'll be able to support. If you're a for-profit organization, what does that mean in terms of incremental revenue, incremental sales, customer acquisition? Again, you may have a lot of these folks already there, and the cost involved can be very small. So that initial work is so critical to kind of set the right path for your organization to realize a very successful program. And when you do embark, make sure that you've got a good partner there that understands the community from the numbers, the demography, but as well as the cultural insights that will help make a very effective program.
Okay. Well, Tom, thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us, and thank you everyone for taking the time to watch.